After my previous 3 videos, it starts to feel like we have 2 options in front of us. The first option is to apply all these logical explanations and see such as damaged weather, human errors, weak technology, and natural disasters. But still, I am fully confident that you won't find a satisfactory answer in any of these explanations. So, now, I will present to you an explanation, an interpretation, where you will find answers to questions about the Bermuda Triangle, Japan Triangle, and Alaska Triangle.
The first trace of this explanation we can see is the conversation between the pilots who got lost in the Bermuda and Japan Triangle. This conversation happened before their aircraft went missing with the control tower, and luckily, we have a record of this conversation. The initial conversation was documented in a transcript by a pilot named Nagao Shirai, who got lost in the Japan Triangle. This transcript is also featured in the book called Seriously Weird True Stories, written by Herbie Brennan and David Wyatt. The book was published in London in 1997. In this book, there's a transcript of the last communication of a lost pilot. His final words were, "Something is happening in the sky. The sky is opening up." Another transcript is from Flight 19, a flight led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, which disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. This transcript was published by America's Legion magazine in 1962. According to this transcript, one of the pilot's last sentences was, "We are entering into white water, nothing seems right. We don't know where we are, the water is green, no white." The third incident is from Germany and Switzerland, where residents of the cities of Newburgh and Basel reported strange creatures fighting in the sky in the months of November and December. And those people had reported right at the beginning that there were circles things on both the right and left sides of the sun, and the sun seemed to have eclipsed. When listening to the last messages of the 2 pilots who got lost in the Bermuda Triangle and the Alaska Triangle, it seems that these 2 incidents were related to the sky. Perhaps the most important thing was that just before disappearing completely, their last message was, the sky was changing. Then, events from Germany and Switzerland also it was about the sky and the sun. A specific event during the sun's particular state was witnessed, where they saw black and red spots fighting in the sky for about an hour. And then suddenly, everything vanished. It is crucial that they observe this event towards the sun and during the time of solar eclipse.
Then, a very important incident from the case of Flight 19, which got lost in the Bermuda Triangle, revealed that the group of 5 planes was in the air during the daytime. The sun was out. When their compasses stopped working, they tried to estimate their position by looking at the sun's position. So to go back and land, they should go to the west, where was the sun setting point. But still, those people kept flying towards the east. What could be the reason for their confusion? What if the answer to the disappearance of these missing planes is hidden in the connection between the sky, the sun, and the earth? When I asked the people how they describe the sky, I received various answers. So, some replied that the sky is what appears above the blue tent. Someone replied that if you go far up, there might be a white tent, that's the sky. In reality, the blue, white, and so many other colors of our sky are created by gases present in our atmosphere, which blend with the sunlight consisting of 7 colors. And that's why the sky shows in different colors depending on the atmosphere. This is not the color of our sky. This is the color of our atmosphere.
The technical term of the sky is a very big idea. The sky is the name of an expansion, which means it's a spread that starts above our heads and goes very far away, way up high, into the millions and millions of miles. That's why we talk about rain coming from the sky. That's why we talk about clouds being in the sky too. That's why we talk about the sun, moon, and stars being in the sky as well. The sky is the name of a very big spread that starts above our heads and spreads billions of billion light years that we can't imagine. So, what is the sky? Where are its boundaries? And then, beyond those boundaries, what lies there? Every culture and every area of study shares this technical definition of the sky, and every culture and area of study speaks of places, energies, pathways, doors, materials, and things within the sky that human eyes cannot see. We eyes cannot see them because the range of human vision is very limited. It's so limited that if we were presented with 200,000 different things in this universe, what do you think? How many we can see? we would be able to see only 7. Knowing this makes us feel quite restricted. What is hidden from our sight? What is concealed? There are so many things about this universe that are hidden from our eyes, which we cannot see even if we try. Here, I want to introduce you to the discoveries of a British biologist from the 19th century whose name was Ivan Terence Sanderson.
His life was full of adventures, and these were not the typical adventures that most ordinary people have. For instance, during a documentary shooting in Kenya, a rhinoceros attacked his father and he died. At the age of 17, he began a journey around the world, mostly in Asia. In terms of education, he earned a degree in zoology. Later, he earned a degree in botany and became a natural scientist. Through his travels to different countries and research on animals and places found in nature, he became a well-known figure. He even introduced a concept called anomalies in his research papers. He says, "I have observed during my studies and travels in many countries that some places are slightly different from others. Gravity and magnetism of our Earth are a little bit more or a little bit less in these places compared to others. These differences may not be immediately visible or apparent, but our instruments, our tools, can tell us about these variations. In the language of science, we call these places anomalous regions."
It means that here, the laws of physics work slightly differently compared to the rest of the world. According to Ivan's research, these places are spread all over the world, and the most common event that occurs in these places is the unexplained disappearance. Now, this is a clear explanation, but along with it, there is also a significant claim, and we will address that claim. If Ivan's observations and research are correct, as he said, there are places in our world where anomalies are found, which means gravity and magnetism are different there compared to other places. Here arise 5 very important questions, and without answering them, we cannot proceed. I am asking these 5 crucial questions one by one before you, and don't worry because I will also provide you with their answers. The first question is, in simple words, what do gravity and magnetism mean? Second question, if gravity and magnetism are indeed different in some places, why does that happen? Third question, what's the connection between these anomalies and disappearances? Like if there are some areas where gravity and magnetism work slightly differently, then what is the connection between it to disappearance? Fourth question, if there are disappearances, then where do those things go? And perhaps the most important question of all is, why aren't these disappearances happening now?
I'll present all these questions to you one by one, and I'll also provide you with their answers. To answer these questions, I will take you to different countries, jungles, caves, and various times. Sometimes, I'll take you to the Stone Age, and sometimes, I will take you to the future so advanced that time has looped back to the Stone Age again. To find the answers to these questions, I will explore all areas of knowledge in front of you, and until we get a satisfying answer, I will search for it in all areas of study, whether it's science or history, whether it's ancient civilizations' beliefs or the latest scientific research. Now, let's address the first question. What are gravity and magnetism in simple terms, and how are they related to us? Whether it's a star, a planet, or even a massive galaxy, they all possess a special force within them, a force that binds them together. This force is what pulls other celestial bodies towards it, and it's called gravity, meaning the force of attraction. This very force, called gravitational force, is why we can walk and move on Earth. It's the same force that makes things fall from up to down. If this force didn't exist, we would float away in the air and never come back to Earth. This force is also why the Moon orbits the Earth, and it's the reason our Earth orbits around the Sun. If gravity were disrupted, the entire system of our Earth that we know would also be disrupted. If gravity were to disappear right now, first, the atmosphere around our planet would disperse into space, and then life on this planet would cease to exist. But there's not much to worry about because our Earth's gravity is strong. Its influence extends to almost 1.5 million kilometers into space. Anything within this 1.5 million kilometer range around Earth would gradually be pulled towards it. Anything beyond this 1.5 million kilometer range would slowly drift away from us, ultimately getting lost in outer space forever. And what is magnetism? In simple words, what would you get if you started digging the Earth? This is something most of us have thought about since childhood. We might have imagined that if we start digging into the Earth, one day we will come out from the other side of the Earth's surface. But that's not true. The truth is, the deepest humans have ever dug is almost 12 kilometers, and even that was more like scratching the Earth's surface. Below this, there are rocks, stones, and various types of metals like coal and iron, which we see in our everyday lives. But as you go deeper, about 100 kilometers down, you'll find the same rocks, stones, and some of these metallic substances. However, beyond 100 kilometers, there's a scorching hell, boiling, seething, and churning.
It's so deep that it goes down to depths of up to 3,000 kilometers, and it doesn't end there. The 20 years it took us to dig 12 kilometers seem like nothing compared to these thousands of kilometers deep, dark depths. Perhaps the word, scratching, was also too big for the 12 kilometers we dug during our 20 years. We haven't even scratched the depth of the Earth's surface. Nevertheless, in these hellish depths, something very important happens. Molten iron was spinning around, and because of its spinning, our Earth becomes like a giant magnet. Just like any big magnet, it creates a kind of shield around it, a magnetic field. This magnetic field is the shield that protects our Earth from the dangerous rays of the sun. It protects our Earth, and this magnetic field extends thousands of kilometers into space above. Now, this field stops harmful rays from the sun and space from reaching us. It protects us. This is the same magnetic field that humans have been using for hundreds of years. Through this magnetic field, people have been navigating locations for the past 900 years using the compass. This compass works using the magnetic field and helps us find directions. This magnetic field also guides thousands of bird species each year as they migrate from colder regions to warmer ones. This is the same magnetic field through which wild animals on our planet make the biggest migration, the Great Wild Beast Migration in Africa. Every year, around 1.7 million wild beasts, and 300,000 zebras migrate from Tanzania's Serengeti Plains to Kenya's Masai Mara fields, all guided by this magnetic field. If this magnetic field gets disturbed, the first thing that will happen is our world's ecosystem will be disrupted. Birds will forget their flying directions, animals will forget which direction they should go, and ships and boats will lose their way. In a matter of days, life on Earth will come to an end. But this disaster might not last long because as soon as the magnetic field disappears, another catastrophic event will occur. We will be exposed to all kinds of dangerous rays from the sun and space. Sometimes, enormous solar flares erupt from the sun. These flares are so massive that they can reach heights of up to 4 million kilometers above the sun's surface. When these flares happen, they are so powerful that their effects reach our entire solar system. And when the impact of this catastrophic flare reaches our Earth, our magnetic field protects us from its destruction. It's a wonder of nature that in the face of this fierce clash between two powerful forces, we don't witness any devastation. Instead, we see a beautiful light show in our sky, dark-colored auroras. But sometimes, the eye of the sun's storm becomes more powerful than expected. It becomes so powerful that it shakes our magnetic field and gets disrupted. The last time we felt this was in 1859 when a massive solar flare disrupted our magnetic field. But we were fortunate that the damage was limited. Only the telegraph lines worldwide stopped working. Gravity and the magnetic field are just like water and food for us. If they disappear from this world, human life will come to an end.
Gravity and magnetism keep our world stable. They keep it in balance. That's why we need to keep an eye on their levels. So, this brings me to another question. Are these two things really less in some places on our Earth and more in other places? If that's the case, why is Earth's normality affected? The answer is quite simple. There are places on Earth where the material present on the surface is abundant and huge. For instance, in mountain ranges or mountain regions where fields or plateaus exist, the terrestrial material is abundant. There, metals, soil, rocks, and mountains are measured by the weight of the land. Naturally, the gravity in those places will be stronger in comparison to open fields. However, the magnetic field's abnormality was first sensed by the sailors residing in Iceland. They noticed that in some places, the compass didn't point north. Sometimes it even indicated a wrong direction, deviating by 30 degrees, and in some places it started spinning. This disturbance mostly occurs in areas where there are metals inside the Earth that can influence the magnetic fields. For example, molten iron emerges from the Earth, or sometimes there are large deposits of iron within the Earth. These large iron disturb the magnetic field. Sometimes a mineral called magnetite is found deep in the dark depths of the seas. This mineral is extremely magnetic, and sometimes its immense quantity creates such strong magnetic forces that it begins to influence our Earth's calculations. Now it's understood that gravity and the magnetic field can vary in different places. We've also figured out the reason behind it. In all the mysteries, one thing will catch your attention, and that's the disturbances in these things. For example, nearly everyone who got lost, as reported, mentioned that their compass was not working. In common language, it means they entered an area with abnormal magnetism. This leads us to our third question: what's the connection between these fluctuations and disappearances? The answer to this question might fascinate you. Think about everything that we can see, touch, taste, hear, and smell, everything in our world or the universe. It's made up of some substance. You might recall from school that we were taught about 3 states of matter, which are solid, liquid, and gas. What we observe or perceive is made up of some material. Everything we can interact with, whether it's solid matter, gases, and so on, is made of some substances. We call this substance matter. That's why we refer to our world and the universe as the material world or the material universe. So, when someone becomes overly attached to worldly things, we call them materialistic. It means a person who only desires tangible things. But remember, everything has an opposite, there's always a contrast. For example, morning is the opposite of night, dry is the opposite of wet, happiness is the opposite of sadness, and so on. Similarly, according to the principles of nature, there had to be an opposite for matter. This concept led to the discovery of antimatter. Whether it exists or not, there must be some opposite matter. And the truth, hopefully, is that there indeed is an opposite matter. However, to prove this, there were the most expensive experiments in human history. How expensive was it? If you're thinking in terms of thousands or millions of dollars, you're quite wrong. Even if you're thinking in terms of billions or trillions of dollars, you're still wrong. Currently, antimatter is the most expensive thing in our world, and just producing 1 gram of antimatter costs $62.5 trillion. But if you are thinking that maybe there is not any country that tried to create antimatter, then you are wrong again. Humans have attempted to create this most expensive thing, antimatter, twice. In 1995, for the first time in history, Switzerland built the world's largest laboratory and the biggest machine to create antimatter. But our physics didn't work there, it didn't function as intended. Instead, it created an explosion. It was very difficult, and it sustained only for 17 minutes. One reason for telling you about antimatter was so that you understand that in this universe, only matter doesn't exist. In this universe, there are various kinds of substances with different natures and different properties. The laws of our physics do not apply to these unknown substances. For us, these substances are unknown, and the discovery of these unknown substances is where this chapter begins, a very interesting journey. Hope you will stay with us until I open all the doors of this mysterious world.